Your life will change when you stop telling people these 5 things. Everyone knows what you're going through, what you're praying for, what you're planning, and what God whispered to you in secret. Then you may already be sabotaging the very breakthrough you're asking Him for. That sentence alone unsettles something in your spirit, doesn't it? Because deep down, you already know this truth. Some doors stayed closed, not because God said no, but because you spoke too soon. Some peace left your life, not because the enemy attacked, but because you handed sacred things to careless ears. Some promises feel delayed not because heaven is silent, but because wisdom was ignored. This message is not comfortable that IT is not trendy, and it will not flatter your ego, but it will protect your destiny. Your life truly begins to change the moment you stop telling people things that were never meant to leave the secret place. And if you feel resistance right now, if something in you wants to argue, justify, or scroll away, pause. That tension is not rejection, IT is recognition. Because God has always worked through holy privacy, not public exposure. To redefining the world tells you to speak everything, post everything, explain everything, clarify everything. But Scripture teaches the opposite. Jesus did not heal everyone publicly. He did not explain every miracle. He did not reveal every plan. He did not defend himself when silence carried more authority than words. Proverbs tells us that wisdom is not loud. It is selective. Jesus himself said, "Do not cast pearls before swine," not because people are worthless, but because sacred things lose power in unclean environments. Some truths weaken the moment they leave your mouth, not because they are wrong, but because they were never meant for public handling. God is not trying to hide you, He's trying to protect what He is growing. And that changes everything. Because when you understand this, you stop oversharing your soul to people who cannot steward it. You stop bleeding in rooms that only clap when you perform. You stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. You stop confusing access with intimacy. And most importantly, you stop interfering with God's process. Story. God's secrets are not for even Joseph did nothing wrong when God gave him dreams. The mistake was not the vision. The mistake was the timing. God showed him rulership, authority, elevation, and purpose. But Joseph spoke to people who lacked the spiritual maturity to celebrate what God was doing in him. And the result? Hatred, betrayal, delay. Joseph's dreams were real, but they became dangerous when spoken prematurely. And this pattern repeats throughout Scripture. David was anointed king, but returned to the field. Jesus was the Son of God, but lived quietly for 30 years. Moses was called to deliver Israel, but spent decades hidden in the desert. God never rushes revelation, because exposure before preparation destroys destinies. If God has placed a vision, conviction, or calling inside you that keeps returning to your spirit, something heavy, quiet, and persistent that is not meant for discussion. IT is meant for protection. Some things God tells you are not instructions to announce. They're instructions to guard. Application. What you must stop telling people. Part 1 Core. There are battles you are fighting that must remain between you and God. Not because you are weak, but because you're being trained. Some seasons require isolation. Because intimacy produces clarity. When you speak every struggle out loud, you invite opinions instead of power. Jesus faced his greatest agony in Gethsemane, and even then, he went farther alone. Some warfare is too holy for an audience. God allows certain battles to remain unseen because the strength being built in you cannot survive constant explanation. People may mean well, but their voices can interrupt God's work. Silence becomes protection. Privacy becomes strength. Hiddenness becomes healing. And when God finishes strengthening you, the victory will speak without explanation. People will see the fruit without knowing the process. Reinforcement. Generosity loses power when Jesus did not condemn generosity. He corrected its motivation. When good works are announced, they shift from obedience to performance. Heaven rewards what is done in secret, because quiet obedience keeps pride from contaminating purpose. When you give without announcing, you detach your identity from validation. You teach your soul to respond to God, not applause. Some blessings are delayed not because you didn't give enough, but because you needed recognition too badly. Hidden generosity builds spiritual authority. Public generosity builds reputation. Only one of those last that repeat. Why your past does not belong to even your testimony is powerful, but it is also vulnerable. Not everyone deserves access to chapters God already healed. When God forgives, He does not keep a record, but people do. Some will remember your worst season more clearly than your transformation. That is why discretion is wisdom. Your past is not shameful, but it is sacred. There is a time to speak and a time to guard out. If God leads you to share, He will also lead you to the right ears. Never expose what God covered to people who cannot honor redemption. That internal call. Preparing for part 2. If this message feels heavy, it's because it's protective. God is calling you out of oversharing and into stewardship, out of noise and into discernment, out of exposure and into alignment. And in the next part, we will go deeper into promises God whispered, wounds God healed quietly, and prayers that must remain hidden until the miracle arrives, because silence is not delay. It is strategy. There are promises God whispered to you that you have never said out loud, not because you doubt them, not because you are unsure, but because even forming the words feels weighty. These promises did not come loudly. They did not arrive with celebration or witnesses. They came quietly, settling deep in your spirit, steady and undeniable. And the reason they remain there is not fear. It is wisdom. When God gives a promise, He rarely gives permission to announce it. He gives instruction to protect it. Some promises are too fragile in their early stages to survive public exposure. Some visions are too sacred to be debated by people who cannot see beyond the natural. Some callings are too valuable to be explained to minds that only understand what is familiar. This is where many believers unknowingly interfere with their own destiny. They speak what God whispered. They announce what God planted. They expose what God was still forming. And when the promise comes under attack, when doubt begins to creep in, they wonder why faith suddenly feels weaker than before. But God never intended your promise to survive public opinion. He intended it to grow in silence. When God hides something, it is never rejection. It is preparation. Moses was hidden as a child. David was hidden in the fields. Joseph was hidden in prison. Jesus was hidden for 30 years. God hides what He plans to use powerfully. Exposure without foundation creates collapse. If God revealed everything He planned for you all at once, the weight of it would crush you. That is why He whispers. That is why He waits. That is why He asks you to keep certain things between you and Him. The promise is not delayed. It is developing roots, and seed grows in the light. It grows underground, covered, hidden, protected. And if someone keeps digging it up to check its progress, it will never mature. That is what happens when you constantly talk about what God promised you. You uproot it with opinions. You expose it to doubt. You disturb the process. God never told you to announce the seed. He told you to water it with faith. When the fruit appears, no explanation will be necessary. The evidence will speak louder than your words ever could. Not everyone needs to know what God said to you. Some people will laugh. Some will question. Some will discourage. Some will project their fear onto your faith. And even well-meaning people can weaken your confidence if they cannot see what you see. The promise was not given to them. It was given to you. Your responsibility is not to convince people. Your responsibility is to believe God. When the time is right, He will reveal what He whispered. Until then, silence is not denial. It is alignment. There are wounds you survive that no one truly understands. Pain that reshaped the way you think. Loss that altered the way you love. Betrayal that changed how you trust. And while the world tells you to talk everything out, God sometimes says, "Come away with me." Because not every wound is meant to be discussed. Some pain is too sacred for public handling. When God heals deeply, He often heals quietly. He removes you from noise, from opinions, from careless listeners. People can sympathize, but they cannot restore. Only God can reach the places words cannot touch. That is why He leads you into stillness. That is why He works behind closed doors. That is why some of your healing happened when no one was watching. Jesus did not explain His suffering to everyone. He endured it. And when He appeared again, He appeared transformed, stronger, whole, glorious. People saw the victory, but they never witnessed the agony. That is God's pattern. He heals you privately, so you're not defined publicly by what broke you. If you expose your wounds too early, people may forever see you through the lens of your pain. But when God heals you in silence, the world meets the healed version of you, not the bleeding one. Not everyone is safe. Not every listener is wise. Some people collect stories, but never honor growth. God protects you by limiting access. This is not isolation. This is stewardship. When the healing is complete, your life will testify louder than any explanation ever could. There are prayers you whispered that still have not been answered. Requests so tender you can barely speak them aloud. And God says, keep these with me, because faith is delicate when it is developing. If you expose unfulfilled prayers to the wrong voices, doubt can enter through conversation. Some people respond with fear instead of faith. Some speak negativity without realizing how deeply it affects your spirit. Hannah prayed silently, and heaven responded. Some prayers require quiet persistence, not public discussion. Some miracles need protection before manifestation. Silence does not mean God is absent. Silence means God is shielding. When something is under construction, it is often closed to the public. God closes access to protect the process. Your prayer has been heard. The silence is not denial. It is defense. Your life will change the moment you stop telling people things God never asked you to reveal. Your peace will return. Your clarity will sharpen. Your faith will strengthen. You will no longer carry the weight of unnecessary opinions. God never mishandles what you give Him. He never exposes what He healed. He never forgets what you prayed. Holy privacy is not fear. It is wisdom. It is the discipline of trusting God more than people. What God builds in silence cannot be destroyed by noise. What grows in hidden places carries depth. What matures without applause stands firm without approval. One day, people will see the fruit. They will notice the peace in your spirit, the authority in your presence, the strength in your words, the wisdom in your decisions. But they will never know how quietly God worked. And that is exactly how He intended it. That if this message stirred something in you, it is because God is calling you into a deeper level of discernment. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everyone needs access. Not every season needs explanation. Some things are meant to be lived, not announced. That if you are hungry for messages that protect your faith, sharpen your spirit, and reveal biblical truth with depth and power, this is where you belong. Subscribe to Light Up Faith. Walk in wisdom. Guard what God entrusted to you. And remember, what God whispered to you in secret, He will reveal in power at the right time. Until then, trust Him, protect it, and move forward in holy silence.